What's up, Kristal? All right, so I'm gonna show you some piano stuff. Okay, that's not surprising. This is a piano lesson, but specifically, I'm gonna go over a warm up real quick that maybe you've done, maybe you haven't done. Um, it's one of the hand exercises. I don't know; those are fun. And then I'm gonna go over some theory stuff. Let's see here, and then we'll kind of take it from there and see what's going on. All right, so scales are great, right? Of course, we warm up with scales, but sometimes you want something a little extra between the scales and the playing of the piece, especially if the piece is kind of crazy, like if you're doing the, right, if you're doing that whole nonsense. I say nonsense, of course, that is a masterful work of art. So just to be clear, Chopin, I do love you. Just in case his ghost haunts me or whatever. Okay, so let's say that you're warming up, right, and you do your scales, and that's great. Well, the next step could be a hand exercise. I'm sure that you've done at least one or two of these. I apologize if you've done the exact one. Like, you've probably done this one. Right, actually I'm gonna aim this down a little so you can see slightly more of what my hands are doing, or my wrists are doing anyway. Okay, yeah. I'm sure that you probably, right, you've probably done that one. Also, please note how relaxed I'm trying to keep my hands as I do pretty much anything. Right, even if I'm, right, you see I'm not really like straining at any point. So just watch out for that as you're playing. I don't know, it takes a lot of time to get used to doing that, but it's well worth it. In the long run, you'll be able to play much more easily. Like, I haven't warmed up at all, and that's still not really an issue to play that quickly just because I'm keeping my hands relaxed. So it's a big help. Anyway, okay, but here's another one. Again, I apologize if you've done this one before, but you're gonna start the same way, right? So you'll start on 2 C's here, and then you're gonna go up a sixth, and then down a second, and then back up. So you got, right? And then you go down to the next lowest note, right? So you just went G, A. Now we're gonna go F, G, and then E, F. So I'm gonna do that really, really slow. Like that. So I guess the way you can think of it is you start at the bottom, you go up a sixth, right? That's like part one. And then after that, the pattern that you're following is starting on the second to last one. So in this case, G, right? You go G and then up. And you move that whole thing down. F and then up. E and then up. D and then up, right? So you're going G, F, E, D. And after each one of those, you're just going up a step. So as you have, right, so that's kind of the pattern there. And then you can do that, all the way up. Let's say that we're at blah, etc. And then once you're about to hit C 2 octaves higher, you just instead go up to G and do the opposite. Etc. I guess I'll do that slowly once at least. And you can also notice that when I'm doing a lot of this sort of back and forth, right, like it goes down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, I'm, as we've talked about, rotating my wrist quite a bit. So if I try to do it stationary, I get very little power and speed, but if I incorporate the wrist rotation and along this axis, the jazz hands axis, and you can see I'm rocking my hand quite a bit. Right. That's another way of, that's another way that I'm able to play kind of quickly without warming up, although that was probably a mistake that I did that. But anyway, it's fine. I'll kind of take it slow from here. All right. So that is a good hand exercise. Now you can spice these up by, instead of doing octaves apart, you do tenths apart, right? Because these are using the white notes only, And your fingers can't, basically your fingertips can't tell the difference between any of the white notes. They're all equal width at the edges. So you could start anywhere, really. So I like to start a tenth apart. So if you want to figure out what a tenth would be, pause here and try that out. Otherwise I'm going to spoil it, which is that you'd have an octave plus a third. That's a tenth. Because everyone knows 8 plus 3 is 10. Just kidding, obviously an octave is really 7 notes apart. It's a whole mess. But anyway, it's basically C to E. Like this. Anyway, it sounds much prettier to do it in tenths. And then when you get to the top, you got, I guess you'd go. In fact, you can do this with the other one too. Okay. Now, one thing that I used to do, I mean, I guess I still do it sometimes, is I would have one hand do triplets while the other hand does regular, like, let's say 16th notes. So one hand is going like, let's see. Yeah, one hand is going dum bum 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 bum, and the other hand is going bum 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 bum. So it'll be. Like that. That's something that we could try in the future. That's kind of fun. Anyway, all right, so try those out. All right, those hand exercises, those are good. Okay. Now, the next order of business here is going to be some theory stuff. So you know a bunch of scales now, almost all the major scales. And I want to go over exactly how you can tell what key something is in just by looking at the key signature. Now, ultimately, the way that, like, professional pianists do this is they'll see the number of sharps or number of flats and they'll just know what key you're in immediately without thinking due to extreme exposure to these things. But the way to get there is to first learn sort of the rules or the tips and tricks. So let me get a scale sheet out here. You get an excellent view of my shirt. Let's see here. All right. So kind of hold this up here. All right. So I think the most obvious one, right? If you see no key signature, it's C major, or it could be A minor, but we'll have to get to that later. But anyway, okay, so here's the deal. With the sharps, you go to the last sharp and you go up half a step. I think we've done this before. Maybe not. I don't think so. So let's take, now obviously we know this is going to be A major, right? But let's take this as an example. It goes F, C, G, or G sharp, right? F sharp, C sharp, G sharp. A half step up from G sharp, you can't see that, but is A. So we're in the key of A. Let's do another one. Actually, let me grab something that doesn't have all the answers in plain sight. Okay, here, I actually got a sheet that covers this right here that I was looking at earlier. That's what made me think of it. Okay. So here's some actual exercises. So this would be A, key of A major. As a reminder, actually, now that I think about it, I guess we'll go over this real quick. You may already know this, but I'm going to just quickly cover this before we continue with this, which is the order of flats and the order of sharps, which would come in handy. I think the order of flats is easy to memorize compared to the order of sharps. Let's see. Oh, this doesn't have all of them. But basically, the order of flats, meaning the order that they appear in a key signature, is always B, E, A, D, G, C, F. So in other words, it spells out the word bead, right? B, E, A, D, followed by G, C, F. So you could think, honestly, in my head, it just goes beadgesif, right? And the fact that that's a made-up word actually makes it more memorable. Beadgesif, or bead, greatest common factor, or whatever kind of makes sense in your brain, but B, E, A, D, G, C, F. So that means if you've got 5 flats, you can be certain that it's B, E, A, D, G, right? Those are the first 5, B, E, A, D. And sure enough, if you double check, B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat, just like that. Okay. The order of sharps is pretty straightforward in that it's just the order of flats backwards. So F, C, G, D, A, E, B. I don't really know how to memorize that one other than just to keep saying it. I mean, or you can do B, B, stiff backwards in your head. I think some people do like fat cats go down alleys eating burritos or something. So, you know, that, but then the question is, how do you remember that that's sharps and not flats? I don't know. But yeah, fat cats go down alleys eating burritos, or F, C, G, D, A, E, B. So let's take a look here. So that means if you see, let's look at F sharp major. That means if you see a song that's got 6 sharps like F sharp major does, then you can be certain that it's F, C, G, D, A, E, right? F, C, G, fat cats go down alleys eating. If you had a 7th sharp, then you would be in the key of C sharp major, and that would be, you know, you'd get all the way to the burritos part. Okay. But anyway, let's continue with the sharps here. And grab my little homework sheet exercise thing. So we already did number 2. Number 3. So remember the rule for sharps is you're going to go up a half step from the last sharp. The last sharp is, of course, the only sharp here, which is F sharp. So you just have to answer the question, what key is a half step above F sharp, which we, of course, know is G, right? So G major for that bad boy right there. Okay, so now we can, oops, excuse me. So now we got A major, G major. Let's do a harder one. Let's do this one over here. So it looks like we got all 7 sharps here. So I'm just going to remind you that's fat cats go down alleys eating burritos, or F, C, G, D, A, E, B, which means that the last sharp is, well, I mean, you can also just read what it is, of course, but the last sharp here is B sharp. So if we go into a piano, actually pause here if you want to try to figure this one out on your own. Figure out what key this key signature applies to. Otherwise, I'm going to kind of go through it here. So the last sharp is B sharp. So here's B sharp, right? So a half step up from this is C sharp. So that means we're in the key of C sharp major for that one. So hopefully this is pretty straightforward so far. Let's see here. Now the reason that you might care about any of this is if you are starting a new song and you don't know what key it's in, but you do have the key signature, and you want to just practice the scale that corresponds with the key that you're playing in, right? So you can get used to what notes you're going to be playing and reading in that song. Then you can use this system. So let's say, you know, okay, you pulled out a new piece that's got 4 sharps, and you want to just make sure that you get good at reading in 4 sharps. And again, you just go to the last sharp, oops, which is D sharp, right? F, C, G, D, D sharp. So again, pause here, try to figure out what key has 4 sharps before I spoil it. It's, of course, E, because the last sharp is D sharp, right? And then we just go up a half step from there to get to E major. All right, that's basically all you need to know for these sharps and stuff. If you want, pause here with this paper up here if you want to just try your hand at the other sharps here. And then I'm going to say the answers to all of them in like 5 seconds. So this is just if you want some more practice, right? Go through all the ones with sharps, see if you can figure out the keys. I'm just going to go run through them in a sec. Okay, so in order right from the beginning, we already did this one. So that's A. This is D. This is C sharp. E. Let's see, this one's got 6 sharps, so that must be F sharp and B for all the keys there. All right, let's do the flats now. This is actually really not ergonomic. I'm like standing in a weird spot, but it's okay. All right, the flats I think are a little easier. So for one, it's easier to remember the order of flats because it spells out a word in the first 4. So bead, B-E-A-D, right? That's kind of easy to remember. And then GCF. I don't know if there's a better way to remember that than just bead GCF, honestly. It's pretty memorable once you hear it a few times because it's so strange. Okay. But anyway, for flats, you basically just go to the second to last flat, and that's the key you're in. So that's pretty straightforward, that's pretty easy. Maybe, actually, let me get a pencil so I can more easily point to stuff here. Let's see here. There we go. All right. Maybe I'll lower this down so I can sit like a normal human. That would be pretty cool. Let's see, that probably works. Zoom out a little bit here. Ah, beautiful. Okay. All right, so let's start with the first one. We got 4 flats, and you just have to go to the second to last one. So this one here, that is an A flat. So that's your answer. You're in the key of A flat right there. That's pretty much it. In fact, let me just write these in. Why not? So that way you can kind of see them all written down. I'll just close this, use it like a table. The world's worst table with this thing in the middle. Okay, so key of A flat right there. Because the second to last flat is A flat, right? It's on the space there. Okay, let's go to this one, number 4. Now we got B flat, E flat, A flat. So the answer is, of course, E flat. Oh my God, there we go. E flat, right? We're getting the key of E flat major. We're gonna skip number 5 for a second. Let's go to 9. Okay, second to last flat is this one. And that is, of course, a B flat. I'm making sure to leave some space in case you don't want it spoiled and you want to kind of figure it out on your own first. But yes, B flat. Number 10, here we go. We got B, E, A, D, G, so 5 flats. But anyway, the second to last one is, of course, D flat. So we're in the key of D flat major there. Okay, and it looks like you got a couple more here. So let's do 14 first, why not? So for 14, we got 6 flats, B, E, A, D, G, C. And the second to last flat, this one, is of course G flat. So we're in the key of G flat there. Now notice that there's some sort of redundancy. It's not, strictly speaking, it's not redundant, but it feels redundant that we have a key of G flat major and a key of F sharp major, which was this one. Like these two have the same, like they're the same key, right? But I mean, the reason we have both of them is because sometimes you're, let's say that you're in the key of, oh, I don't know, you're in the key of D flat major, and then you modulate or you change keys to the 4th note of that scale, G flat. It just makes more sense to keep it with flats for the whole piece instead of sharps. So the 4th note of a D flat scale is not F sharp, right? It doesn't go D flat, E flat, F, F sharp. Of course not, we don't reuse F ever, or any letter in a scale. So we don't want to say G flat, but some songs would call for sharps instead. Okay, so we got G flat, and this one here, zoom in a little bit here. So number 13, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sharps, that's all of them. So remember, use Beadgesif here to figure out what the second to last flat would be, or you can just read it because it's on, you know, treble clef. That part you can't really see anymore, but treble clef, right? So you just figure out what note this is on treble clef. And the answer is, of course, C flat. So this is in the key of C flat major, and yes, that is as terrible as it sounds. C flat. Sort of known as B, but also different. Okay. All right, there we go. Now, back to number 5 that we skipped. This is the one circumstance where you can't really use the second to last flat because there is no second to last flat. There's only one flat. This one you'll just have to remember is F, right? We're in the key of F for this. So if you remember your F scale, it goes F, G, A, B flat, C, D, E. And then, of course, F again at the top if you want. All right, there we go. I'm gonna write all of these in, just so you can get a final reference and kind of check that you understand what's going on and everything. So you can see as I'm filling these out, like I don't really count the sharps or anything. You just kind of memorize over time doing stuff like this. This one I have to do manually though, because I rarely see this key signature, but this one happens to be C sharp. Like you're more likely to see D flat than C sharp for obvious reasons. Like D flat only has 5 flats, and C sharp has 7 sharps. So they'll usually go with the 5 flats. All right, C sharp. This is E. This one is F sharp. This one's B. And there we go. That's all of the answers there. Make sure, of course, to note the bass clef here and the treble clef here. That's going to change how you read what these are, but that's basically what all these answers are. I think that's all of them, right? How are there 14 keys? Hold on. Oh, right, because a couple of them are reused, right? Like we got C flat and B. We got G flat and F sharp. I think that doesn't make sense. Then we also got C sharp and D flat. That means that something's missing, maybe. Interesting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, I'm dumb. 7. Wait. Yeah, that doesn't add up. But anyway, those are the answers. All right, cool. So there we go. That took longer than I thought it was going to, honestly, but it's really good info. Let's see. All right, next thing I'm going to go over is some minor scales. I'm certain that you know some minor scales, but I'm going to go over them, just get an exhaustive list going so that you can practice these, because these ones are spicier and more fun. All right, here we go. As you probably know, every major key has a relative minor key. And it's so basically, let's start with C major, right? If we're in the key of C major, no sharps or flats. There's also a minor key that has no sharps or flats, and that's going to be basically 2 notes down from C in this case. So if you start with your major key, right, we're in the key of C, if you just go down a couple notes, that's going to be your minor, A. A minor and C major share the same key signature. So that means that you can play an A natural minor scale by just starting on A and just going all the white notes. Right? There we go. So that's natural minor. Again, I apologize if some of this is stuff that you already know, but I want to make sure I don't miss anything. So that's natural minor. Most likely named after the fact that you can play A natural minor with just natural notes, right? I don't actually know that for sure, that's why it's called that, but oops. Right, okay, so that's natural minor. Let's get on to some spicier options. We got harmonic minor, where you still have a sharp 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right. So again, that's harmonic minor. Named after the fact that if you take the 3 most common chords in classical music, which is in a minor key anyway, which is the 1, the 2 half diminished, or even just 2 diminished, and the 5, major 5, right? You've probably heard this chord progression a million times in classical music, like. If you just take all those notes that I just played and sum them all together, you get harmonic minor, the notes of harmonic minor, i.e. harmony, right? Harmony. So that scale covers every note played in those 3 chords there. Those chords, by the way, officially are referred to the tonic, i.e. the 1 chord. The 1, even though I'm holding up 2, the 1 chord, as it's called, the minor 1 chord. So the tonic, the predominant, and the dominant, which is the 5. And the 5 usually leads to the 1. So normally in classical music, you get you got your predominant first, and then your dominant, and that leads to the tonic. And there's all sorts of different types of predominance, but that's going to be like the most common. Anyway, so tonic, predominant, dominant, tonic. Okay. Anyway, and then finally we got the weirdest one, melodic minor, which is more like used for melodies. This one's kind of outdated, I would say. This was more common in like the year 1700, or even 1650 or 1600. But like, when it came to melodies, if you were ascending, you were most likely to use essentially the major scale, except that you changed the 3 just to make it minor. So like A major would be this. So you notice I had 2 sharps at the top. So actually I had these 3 sharps total. If I just lower this one down, that's gonna make it A minor, right? But if I keep the rest, I get melodic minor. That's ascending. So just to be totally clear, I'm going A, B, C, D, E, and then F sharp, G sharp, and then A again at the top there. So that's melodic minor ascending. You've probably heard this before, like even rush E, right? Everyone knows rush E. I assume, I don't know if we've talked about it. I'm guessing you've heard rush E, right? But anyway, in the beginning, right, it goes and does that whole thing, da-da-da-da, and that's actually melodic minor. Anyway, but descending, if you use those same notes, it just sounds a little bit too bright for minor, in my opinion. Like it sounds like we're in a major key again, like I'm gonna go, right, and then there. So on the way down, to keep it dark, we use actually the same as natural minor. Right, you can probably already hear that sounds a little bit darker. Right? So to keep it dark. So in other words, melodic minor ascending is this, and descending is the same as natural minor. So we get one of the few scales that's different going up versus down. In fact, the only scale I'm aware of that's different going up versus down. Because normally when we talk about scales, we don't care what direction they're going, because they're not really, it's not like songs go. Right? That's not a typical melody that you're gonna find super often. They're mixing together. They're going right. They're doing all sorts of movements and stuff. So that one's kind of interesting. So just to go over everything real quick, we got natural minor. Oops, sorry. I do this stupid thing where I look at the screen instead of at my fingers. But of course the screen is lagging behind reality, so I mess up. Anyway, here's natural minor. Right, all natural keys, right? And then harmonic minor is that, except with a sharp 7. And then lastly, we got melodic minor. All right, I will finish up there. That's pretty much today's lesson right there. But I hope you're doing well. I will see you next week, and yeah, have a great one.